let this play for a little bit, let people join on to this live, this very unique live, where we are essentially, I'm going to be contacting the feds and the DOJ. And I'm going to give it a sec here, sending this link to some friends, getting it going. So we're going to see how this all goes. So please be patient with me here. You know, in fact, I could tell you the story of exactly what I think's been going on. I posted a document on my X account, not Vem Miller, where I explain, it starts off with saying criminal information. There's evidence attached to this document, which shows a lot of the crimes committed at the Riverside County, which seems to have extended to Las Vegas. And I will explain what that is all about. For people interested in details, simply go on my X account. Underneath the pinned profile account, you will see, there's a fake account impersonating me. And then the third thing down there says criminal information. That has a lot of info on what's happened, what these crimes are. And, oops, wrong one. I'm actually sending this to Mindy so she could retweet. One sec here. And then I'll get into it. You know, thank goodness for Elon Musk, seriously. We'd have no voice right now. Could you imagine that? If, like, we're stuck with just Rumble. And then I'll get into it. Oops, that's me talking because I'm trying to send the link here to our lovely Mindy Robinson. All right, here we go. Okay, so we're going to do something kind of unique here. First, I'll tell you, catch you up with this story, essentially give you the Cliff Notes version of the criminal information that we put out there. And there we go. And then I'm going to call the feds and the DOJ, see if there's actually a way we could get a hold of these guys to explain what's happened in order for them to start a criminal investigation. I could see a lot of people are joining at Rumble. Thank you so much, guys, for joining at Rumble. I'm giving Mindy a sec to get this out. I'm also sending the link to other individuals that we know that have been very supportive. Thank you all. You know who you are. Thank you so much. Hang on, I'm going to share this with, let me tell you guys, actually, I could probably share all this stuff while catching you up with the criminal information. So, as you guys all know, on October 12th, 2024, I was falsely accused by Sheriff Bianco in the Riverside County Sheriff's Department of essentially being, going to the Coachella Rally to assassinate our former president, right? And subsequent to that, I found out that on that same day, the feds realized I was no threat. They didn't even want to interview me, and they pretty much said that it's a nothing burger. But nonetheless, the next day, Sheriff Bianco gets on stage, media prostitute that he is, and says that I was there to assassinate the president, and says a lot of outlandish things. Now, the video that's pinned to my profile actually goes over that, and I think clearly establishes that everything's a lie, because what Sheriff Bianco did not know is that I was recording the entire thing. And despite the fact that his department has refused to reveal the body cam footage. And of course, why would they reveal the body cam footage when, there's basically no evidence of what he was saying, that literally this man created a tale within his head that suited his desires to become a politician, become this big hero, So why would they release that footage? But what they did not know is that I was recording the entire thing. And that is what you will find in that first video, but you'll also find it embedded within my criminal information that I just released today. That goes detail by detail as to the events with evidence. And, it's nice having evidence because Sheriff Bianco certainly does not, because it was abundantly clear that I was not there to harm anybody. And in fact, I was there to support our former president, which is a bitter swill to swallow since I've been such an adamant supporter of our former president. And, then to hear stuff like I'm a sovereign citizen and all that, which the basis of a sovereign citizen, by the way, is that they are, anti-government, which would be very weird since I ran for government office in 2022. Also would be very weird since I'm promoting somebody to run for government office. You see what I'm saying? So not much of a story there in terms of the BS that Sheriff Bianco was trying to sell. Another thing that I need to make very clear is that I was never going to enter a Trump rally. That's a ridiculous accusation. I was to park my car and then walk half a mile to the Trump rally. And I've said that over and over again. And people, due to the mainstream media's lies, the propaganda, they keep saying, well, you were, stupid of you, like you don't deserve being called an assassin, but stupid of you to go into a Trump rally with a gun. No, nobody was ever entering a Trump rally. And by the way, the security there, I mean, with these big guns, like a shotgun and like a Glock, they're not even like 22s or one shooters or whatever that you could kind of hide or conceal. The accusation's ridiculous. And literally the Secret Service would have to be incompetent in order for that to have happened. And obviously that did not happen. And the Secret Service are not so incompetent to allow that sort of thing to happen. So, it's kind of crazy that these insane accusations keep getting tossed at me. But imagine you're in my shoes. Your life is absolutely shattered. Freaking, woman I'm dating breaks up with me, thinks I'm a terrorist. I can't even put my name down now when I go somewhere because if Vem Miller checks in at a hotel, Vem Miller, all of a sudden people know who that guy is because this guy destroyed my reputation internationally without even looking at the evidence. So, I do not want this fight. Like I'm just an artist. I'm a documentary filmmaker. But when somebody comes at you like this, what do? Do you just sit there silently and let them destroy your life so they could seek higher office? Like a liar, like a pathological liar, a sociopath, right? And the reason I call him a pathological liar and a sociopath is, as you will see in the press conference, is like, I'm glad we didn't shoot him and we're here to report that we killed him. Like he actually said that, okay? And when you listen to the recording, it was like literally no incident. I drove up to the guy, the police officer, prior to even attempting to enter the parking lot area. I told him, hey, I was the one that told him, not that they approached me, not that they found this out or whatever. It was me out of my own fruition telling him that, right? Sorry, I'm like sharing this so we could get more people to show up. Wow, a lot of people already showing up. That's very cool. I'm glad you guys are actually following this story because this story could be you. And think about it. There was 50,000 people. They say between 25 and 50,000 people. This could have happened to anybody. This could have happened to anybody. And one thing I want you guys to think about, watching how I've been, able to utilize connections, people coming to my support, because I run a media company, because we do 14 shows at the America Happens Network. Now imagine this happened to you and you don't have those connections. What would happen? They would force you into some kind of plea deal. You'd have to admit something that you did not do and forever live in infamy as a terrorist. And so what? So like a politician, a wannabe politician could seek higher office, power. All about power, not about we the people, about power. So in this criminal information document that I actually sent out today, I mean, I emailed it to a lot of people. I actually posted it on my Twitter. Thus far, I think about 25,000 people have this information, which is great because even if they try to still off me to shut me down, a lot of people have it. A lot of people with balls, honestly, a lot of people with courage have this. And so, whoever did this is still getting held accountable regardless of what they do to me. Now, the criminal information also reveals something that became abundantly true or abundantly clear yesterday when I was talking to one of my colleagues who's actually gone after a lot of corrupt officials, right? And what we realized is the following. So this is the timeline. October 12th, I am apprehended unlawfully because they should have just told me, here's a ticket, go, at best go away, or go put your guns somewhere else and then come back. The ticket for this in terms of California law is at most $1,000, could be also zero, right? And if you don't have any priors, there's no jail time, which I do not have any priors, right? That's the way it should have been. But I am tortured medically. My supplements are kept away from me. I'm put into a sauna of a car. I'm taken to a police department. Throughout all this interaction, at 3.5 hours in and 6.5 hours in, the feds actually have an opportunity, feds and Secret Service have an opportunity to interview me, but they decline. And somewhere in there on October 12th, I think it was literally 3 hours in or 4 hours in, the feds and Secret Service released a statement saying this is a nothing burger, there is no investigation done, right? I go to prison, I go to jail that night. I'm put through just some horrible experiences throughout that process. My wrists still hurt, by the way, because of the way they handcuffed me, the way they shoved me into a car, the way they chained my feet and didn't allow me to have my one phone call, literally refused my phone call the entire time. I never got a phone call, which tells you a lot about what kind of individuals run that department. And for anybody that wants to learn about what kind of individual, firstly, there's like thousands of pages that were sent to me about the corruption of this department, the nightmares that happen within this Riverside County Sheriff's Department. There's been, essentially many whistleblowers coming forward talking about the crimes within this department. And if you guys want to get a taste of that, watch the clip that's pinned to my profile where the Riverside County civilians clearly state that this sort of behavior where Sheriff Bianco and his department, how they behave, this thuggish, mafia-esque behavior is something that a lot of other individuals have experienced. And you know what? Those a lot of other individuals are not Vem Miller, who runs the America Happens Network and is politically involved and has a lot of great friends that support him, right? And those people, all they got is the Riverside County Board to go and complain to. And certainly the Riverside County Board isn't doing their job. And why aren't doing their job? Let me tell you a few facts about that. We've been sent documents that would indicate, and I would say allegedly at this juncture, but that would indicate that when Sheriff Bianco was put into office, before he was put into office, he got the support of a lot of police officers, right? And the police officers were pushing for him because he had promised that he's going to take care of them. I think their salaries were stuck at $70,000 a year, right? But then Sheriff Bianco becomes sheriff, and rather than helping the rank and file cops, his salary skyrockets. If you look at his financial records, apparently he makes $300,000 a year from being a cop, and he makes another $300,000 a year from other income. And we've heard rumors about what that other income is, and we've heard things like allegedly he might have marijuana fields that he's invested in. Allegedly, I can't say yet, but we're investigating, and we're having a lot of information sent to us. Allegedly that he might be protected because he has marijuana fields with some feds involved. I mean, sounds like some early 80s shit that the intelligence agencies used to do, or I guess might still be doing. I don't know. We'll find out. All being investigated as we speak. And so he, apparently he allegedly makes a deal with the other board members to skyrocket his salary while they skyrocket their salary, and then the rank and file police are left stuck at the same salary. And you could imagine, the rank and file police aren't very happy about this. They're not happy that Sheriff Bianco didn't do what he had promised. this was clearly upsetting to them. And, it's, you can imagine that they're upset. And if something like this happens and all of a sudden man is falsely accused of trying to kill our former president, who he admires so deeply. I've gone on record for the last 6 years saying I admire his courage for calling out the fake news and talking about the deep state and standing up for our constitutional rights. Well, once this gentleman is accused of this sort of thing, and now the backlash starts, because now this gentleman has to, myself, I have to go clear my name because it's internationally slandered, literally within minutes. Now these officers that were so screwed over by the sheriff, guess what? They're going to turn whistleblowers, aren't they? They're going to start sending piles and piles of information. And when you dig into these piles and piles of information, you see that this has been recurring behavior. As lawyers say, patterns and practices. Like a long time, he's been doing these sort of things. And you could hear the testimonials of those Riverside County civilians that go in there and say, look, this has been going on. People falsely jailed, dying in custody, not getting the care they need. Pretty much everything that I talk about, all the bad behavior, no due process, torturing somebody medically, physically, all things that happened to me ongoing, has been going on for a real long time. It just hasn't been happening to somebody that's been as involved in this movement as I have with the connections that I have. So, but when it's kind of like the boy that cried wolf, right? Or, better analogy, it's like the kind of thing where, kid steals a jelly bean and gets away with it. And then, he steals a chocolate bar, gets away with it. And then next thing you know, he's stealing purses and gets away with it. Next thing you know, he's doing credit card fraud, gets away with it. Next thing you know, he's stealing cars, gets away with it. Next thing you know, he stabs somebody. The person doesn't die, but he gets away with it. Next thing you know, he rapes somebody, gets away with it. Next thing you know, he murders somebody, gets away with it. And due to the fact that the person is getting away with it over and over and over again, what happens? That person operates with impunity. They think they're above the law. And so what happened to me is at a climactic moment in all of this, that this person and his department, with the thugs over there in terms of the deputy sheriff, or they think I could get away with this. This is like, normal behavior. We're above the law. We are the law. That's what they think. But they forget that they're freaking public servants. And you got to say the system's been so corrupted that these individuals operate with impunity. They think they could get away with this nonsense, right? And they think they could get away with the threats and intimidations, right? And you know what? Some people just fight back. Some people just fight back. They're not going to take the threats and intimidations. They're not going to cower, especially when they come at me internationally. It's like they give me no choice but to fight back, but to do things like this, where I got to go on a live, call the DOJ so people are watching and know what is happening. Sorry, my eyesight's. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm sending this to a bunch of people, getting a lot more people to show up to this live. And then we're going to try to call the DOJ. We're going to try to call the FBI and see what happens. I mean, going on their website, it's already hard enough to find even a phone number. And we're going to see, we're going to see what that looks like. It's probably going to be really boring for you guys. I hate to say it. It's going to be pretty boring for you guys because they do not make this stuff easy. They do not make this stuff easy. But you know what's interesting? If you're a grandma patriot showing up to the Capitol, I mean, they'll come knock on your door, but trying to get him to help you out. It's interesting how that works, I mean, we're seeing systematic issues with this country, Sorry, just writing a text here. All right. So here's what happens, okay? Here's what happens after the feds say there's no issue with this guy on October 12th. All of a sudden, October 13th, a rogue group of LVMPD officers show up to my parents' home, which I now understand why they showed up to my parents' home. That is not my address. And because I started getting threats back in 2022 due to the content we do on the America Happens Network, I made sure my address wasn't published, right? The one time I had to have some, and by the way, the mail that I get, totally not even on the radar as far as where that's sent, okay? So there's one instance where I actually do file a piece of paper that has my folks' address on there. So I know these guys are scrambling. Where is this, Vem Miller guy? Where is this guy? Where is this guy? And they find this one address, right? And that is the address that they show up to. That's the address that they show up to where my parents are. And the reports, which are actually linked to that criminal information tweet, which has also been emailed to multiple people. I believe 25,000 people have it thus far. And what I would say is, about 10 of the most badass patriot types that should something happen to me, I know they're not going to be quiet because they're warriors. And that's very intentional to keep it that way. So essentially, they go to my parents' home and they are desperate to get inside. And my parents will not allow them. Okay, I'm talking, two elderly people, late 70s, early 80s. And they basically won't let them inside. They're terrified. These cops are insisting to get inside. And essentially, my mother calls Steve Sanson, who's a good friend of mine, and actually a good friend of theirs. Steve's a great guy. Whenever, because I travel a lot, I caretake for my parents when they need me, but a lot of time I'm out there traveling. And so, in these instances, he's almost been like a second son to my folks, and he goes to help them, and he's been to their house many times. Somebody that's just a really decent person, and so this time, my mother, when the cops are knocking on the door demanding that they get in without a warrant, by the way, no warrant, which is also interesting, they eventually call Steve Sanson. Steve Sanson shows up to their house and ask the cops what they're doing there. And this is all in the reports that actually have been already published on that criminal information. There's a link there where you could download all three reports, Steve Sanson's, my mother's, and my father's, right? And they all describe eloquently what actually happened that day. And so they're trying to get in. Steve Sanson's there. He's like, what the hell are you guys doing? Finds out they don't have a warrant. He basically tells them to get the hell out of there. Then they should leave. They threaten to have him arrested. They say he's obstructing justice, this is the interesting part where like the conspiracy now is just like crazy, because keep in mind, October 12th, the feds and the Secret Service, the authorities that actually are in charge of assassinations, if there was a real assassination attempt or threat, say there's nothing to talk about here. It's gone. They don't even know, like they've already done their research. They realize that, whoa, this guy's not what you guys are saying he is, Sheriff Bianco and his portly deputy there. And so at that juncture, October 13, state gets involved, and that's not even the state's jurisdiction. So they come to the house under the guise of a welfare check, but they sent the anti-terrorism police. Why did they send the anti-terrorism police? That is the wrong kind of individuals to send for a welfare check, okay? And let me tell you some of the reasons, which is actually in this document that I have emailed to multiple individuals as well as published on my Twitter. And I've done an episode of this, actually, interestingly enough, Blood Money Podcast episode 1 is with an individual that went through the same thing, where he's in the United Kingdom. He is a family law advocate, lost his children because of their version of the children's services, essentially kidnaps and sells off his 3 children. The man's heartbroken. He starts to become an advocate, showing up to marches around London. And then under the guise of terrorism, they send a terrorism task force, and there's pictures of this on Blood Money episode 1. They sent the terrorism task force to apprehend him, stick him in a cell, and interrogate him. Okay. And the reason why they're able to do this is because of stuff like the Patriot Act. Okay. When we talk about on the Blood Money podcast and all our shows about how they use fear to take away our rights, well, under the Patriot Act, under the guise of terrorism, you could actually keep people, interrogate them, and also you could kill people and not go through the same channels of justice that one normally would. And it's not like they ever hold cops accountable for shooting down people anyways, So many stories, and Steve Steve Sanson elaborates on this a lot on his Veterans in Politics show, where dude is in his boxers, armed, heavily armed, like these individuals, with the terrorism, anti-terrorism task force, show up, gun him down, and then for the next 10 years, they do these hearings and everything, but it gets brushed under the rug. Nobody gets justice. And in fact, a lot of the time, the people that are the murderers of those individuals that have broken due process are actually, they get higher jobs, higher office. They're never held to account, So basically, I think that, well, I don't think even, it's obvious that when you have a state force that then goes rogue, and by the way, Sheriff McMail has gone on the record and said he didn't even know about this occurrence, which is the sheriff of Clark County, where my parents live. And so he's not aware of it, the sheriff's not, which would indicate that this is a clandestine group of police officers, right? October 14, 12 of them show up. And this is when Steve Sanson goes there to stop them from doing the wrongdoings that they're doing, right? So October 14th, we learn that Sheriff McMail doesn't know about this rogue group, that he wants to launch an investigation because he acknowledges this is a rogue group. We also know that statements are made indicating that this rogue group is doing some sort of investigation because Steve Sanson is obstructing justice. And we also know that they're anti-terrorism folks, which means that they are looking at whoever they're looking to apprehend, kill, interrogate, whatever. There's no due process thanks to the Patriot Act, which was set in because of fear. They made us scared. They passed that thing in the dark of night. And now all they have to do to take away your due process is to say that you're a terrorist threat, right? And think about that. Welfare checks happen with normal cops, welfare checks, okay? In this case, the welfare checks happens with anti-terrorism unit under the guise of whatever's happening there being terrorism. And they're trying to enter the house. They're trying to, without warrants, they're trying to enter. And so now Steve Sanson's there. And think about this, okay? Think about if Steve Sanson wasn't there. Steve Sanson is a Marine, by the way, American hero. I think he's done 2 or 3 tours of duty. Somebody has dedicated his life to this country. Now runs Veterans in Politics, which also goes after corrupt judges, lawyers. And if for those of us that, for those of you that don't know Steve Sanson's work, check out the story of Matthew Harder, one of the most corrupt judges that destroyed lives in the family court. And Steve, for 2 years, went after that guy, put billboards up, wrote articles about him, did pieces on the evil work of Matthew Harder. And eventually Matthew Harder, we heard, was being investigated. He was found to be investigated, and he decided to kill himself, okay? And while I am not happy that anybody has to kill themselves, what that indicates is that this man and the horror that he'd done, that he should be ashamed for. By the way, Matthew Harder, on one occasion, when a parent was demanding their constitutional rights, he made a statement like, I am God. I get to decide what I want to do in this courtroom. I am God. That's what he said, Think about that for a second. We're supposed to live in a constitutional republic where it's about the powers of we the people. And you have individuals like Matthew Harder, the judge that decided to off himself eventually because Steve Sanson kept coming after him, saying statements like, I am God. Okay, now think about Sheriff Bianco. Sheriff Bianco did not say he is God, but Epoch Times apparently on 2 occasions said that they had gotten text messages from him saying that I had verbatim said that I am here to kill, fill in the blank. Think about that, okay? Think about this man without looking at a shred of evidence. He goes on the podium and internationally destroys me. Isn't that like I am God-like behavior? Okay, for a public servant that's supposed to be a peace officer, not a thug, not a mafia member, but a peace officer. That's his job, to keep the peace, right? Sorry, sending. All right. And so this is the state we're in. This is the police state we're in, where these individuals think literally, I am God. I am God. That's their statement. You know what I mean? And that sometimes they say it verbatim, like in the case of Matthew Harder. Sometimes they say, they don't say it, but they act that way. They act with this I am God-like presence, right? Think about that. Think about Sheriff Bianco having the impunity to think that I don't even have to look at a shred of evidence. I don't have to look at the body cams before I destroy somebody's life and make him out to be an international terrorist, because that was convenient for him at that time. And so then I think what happened, I think somewhere in there after Sheriff Bianco's press conference, I truly do believe that at that point he realized, whoa, wait a minute, like this Vem Miller guy, it's like I'm realizing, he knows a lot of people, he's very involved. Maybe he looked at the body cam at that point. Maybe he decided to look at the body cam and see what was going on over there. And if he looked at the body cam, boy, he realizes he screwed up, right? He realizes that, oh shit, damn, okay, this guy runs a network. He does a lot of shows. He knows a lot of influencers. He knows a lot of people within the Patriot movement, in the core of the Patriot movement. And in fact, seems like he is extremely active in the Patriot movement, right? So at that point, I'm sure there was a moment where Sheriff Bianco realized, like, damn, I might be screwed here. Then October 13th, 14th, first couple of officers show up to my parents' home because they think that's my address. Those statements, by the way, have already been made by the head of the anti-terrorism division, that he was of the belief that I was physically living there at my parents' home, and that's why they showed up, okay? And think about that for a second. They show up with anti-terrorism officers, not welfare individuals, anti-terrorism officers. And by the way, what is the justification of that when the feds have already stated that I'm no threat, like I'm not a terrorist? They know that I'm part of the movement at that point, nothing burger, but nonetheless, rather than say, yeah, you want to send a couple of welfare individuals? Like, firstly, that doesn't make sense, because if it's already exposed that this was a whole nothing burger, non-issue by the feds and the Secret Service, who are the right authorities to decide that, why send anti-terrorism, right? Because here's what I think happened, and this is speculation, okay? But I think the evidence is there to justify this speculation, and that is that anti-terrorism officers, when you're calling something terrorism, then there's no due process. So you could kill somebody, you could harm somebody, you could interrogate somebody for days. Check out that Blood Money episode where that happens to a family law advocate, a father who's had his 3 children in the United Kingdom stolen from him, Blood Money episode 1, and he's out there protesting, and then they pull him into this 48-hour, 78-hour, 72-hour interrogation, offer him bribes, think about that for a second, why anti-terrorism unit? And I think as you think about why they sent the anti-terrorism unit, you might arrive to the same conclusion that I had, which is that if I was there, I probably would have been dead already. And then the news would have said, oh, this crazy Vem Miller guy, conspiracy theorist guy, runs the America Happens network. Look at all this crazy stuff he does. Oh, look at his crazy partner, Mindy Robinson, who's done this documentary about the Route 91 shooting, saying that there's a cover-up. And essentially, in one swoop, they basically discredit everything that we've done, everything around us, the Ivan Raiklin's of the world, the General Flynn's of the world, everybody in the Patriot movement, boom, discredited like that, because we all look like a bunch of psychos associated with this crazy Vem Miller guy, right? That's a story that they were going to tell at that point. You guys understand what I'm talking about here? That was the intention, I believe, okay? And I use words like allegedly, knowing in my heart and soul that that was the goal, because I've done enough legal research, I've studied enough law, I've spoken to enough individuals to know when you go with the anti-terrorism force, you are now under the Patriot Act. You're calling somebody a terrorist, and as a result, there's no due process, right? And you clean up that person, all of a sudden the mainstream media gets this thing of like, oh, we killed this Vem Miller guy, he was a danger, he was there to assassinate the president, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's happy in the Patriot movement because they think like, whoa, we've like actually saved another assassination attempt, and then it's like, three, everybody gets their 3-0 shirts, I'm forever known, like Lee Harvey Oswald, it's like if you watched our Roger Stone episode, it's pretty clear Lee Harvey Oswald most likely wasn't even involved in the JFK assassination. It was a guy named Malcolm Mac Wallace, who's fingerprint was actually found in the 664 depository. And incidentally, he's the same guy that was Lyndon Baines Johnson's hitman. And the JFK assassination was assassination number 11. And he killed up to 13 people. They say, actually, in some reports, they say up to 18 people, right? Lyndon Baines Johnson's personal assassin. And I think that's how it was going to play out. I think that was their goal. Not only to get rid of me, but discredit anybody around me. And the mainstream media is talking about all these crazy people that go to Reawaken America, the Clay Clarks, the Thomas Renzes, all which are associated with me, all that have had content on the America Happens Network. And all of us are just made to look like a bunch of psychos in one swoop. Done. Whew. All of us, right? That, I think, is what they're trying to do. But even if that element, and we're going to find out, even if you take out that element, what Chad Bianco did, what the deputy did in Riverside County was an incredible crime on its own. Incredible crime on its own. Okay. And so what we're going to do today is, and this might get a little boring. I'm sure my fiery speech and all the details is a little bit more interesting than what's going to happen. But what we're going to do today is we're going to call the Department of Justice. We're going to call the FBI, see if we can get them on the phone, and see how that all goes down, right? And the reason why we're doing it this way is because, you know, we're documenting everything. We're documenting everything, brother. We are documenting. I say brother because somebody just texted me. Good. I'm live right now. Joe Altman's texting me. Yeah. And anyway, one sec. So let's get to calling our Department of Justice and see if they are going to come to justice. Let's see if there's justice in America still. Let's see if they will take my report, the criminal information that I actually have published online that I've emailed to so many people. Let's see if they actually, you know, a couple of other things, by the way, I want to point out, you know, in terms of the foolishry of this very selfish Chad Bianco, okay? The mainstream media, and I told you how, in my opinion, they were there to, at one fell swoop, they hate all these individuals in terms of the General Flynn's, the Ivan Raiklins, pretty much all these individuals that I'm associated with, Mindy Robinson. They want to shut us down. They want to censor us, right? And I told you how if I'd been gunned down by that anti-terrorism force or evidence planted, I've been told about child porn. I mean, I've been given every option of like what they would do to me to make me look like I'm a psycho. And then, boom, one fell swoop, everybody in the Reawaken movement, psychos, probably steal an election, which is interesting because what I was doing prior to the Coachella rallies, I had spent that week chasing semi-trucks full of ballots, 150 of them. And the timing of it's just really interesting because literally the day before I handed piles and piles of evidence, including whistleblower reports, including bills of landing, pictures, the names of people, whistleblower recordings of interviews with whistleblowers that basically talked about these 150 semi-trucks full of ballots coming from Tacoma, Washington, being moved to California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, which is actually interesting too, because all the ballots in those states are supposed to be printed at Rayburn in Arizona. That's where it's supposed to be printed, Rayburn in Arizona. But all the way in the Northwest, there's all of a sudden next to a pier in a secured parking lot, there's a crane that's operational. And you know, because the crane arm is down when it's not in operation, but this crane arm is set up in a way that these ballots have been moved off of ships into these semi-trailers. And the drivers are told that, hey, like, you know, if you speak about this, you know, we're going to catch you. All this stuff is being surveyed. You're going to be followed. You can only pull over to certain truck stops if you want to take a piss. Everything is very controlled. They're told that there's cameras in the back of the trucks if they open the doors. They're told that there's what do you call it? GPS on all the cars. They're told that when they arrive at only certain stops that they're supposed to be at, they're supposed to congregate together. They're not allowed to mix with anybody. There's witnesses that say that there's 3 individuals, one that had a badge backwards, so nobody could see what that badge is, and 2 that were not even clearly not authorized to be there, basically, that had no identification. They're the ones handling the entire operation in Tacoma, Washington, you know? And by the way, guys, this is the thing. As an investigative journalist, everything's documented. So these aren't like crazy conspiracy theorists. Like, I'm not a guy that like is working landscaping by day, like certain schmucky influencers that get all these hits because of bullshit stories they publish that they probably dream up while they're doing their day job and trying to act like they're James Bond. No, this is like recorded, documented. And I handed all this stuff to Patrick Byrne and other individuals that are witness to the fact that now they have a pile of evidence because of me. And the next day I show up to the Coachella rally, and that's when I get arrested, right? So think about this, okay? We're doing the Bundy versus Deep State documentary that's released that shows the fraud of the federal government, which comes after Mike Little dies. We believe 100% that he was assassinated, where a very healthy man all of a sudden falls ill, and within 5.5 weeks is dead. Literally melts away. Skin and bones, okay? Really happened. We caught it on camera. If you want to go to the americahappens.com website, you'll actually see it on there. Bundy versus Deep State. You'll see the death of Mike Little. You'll see how much we tried to prevent the death and the fingerprints of all kinds of bad behavior. Firstly, like he's 90%, he loses his health, and then they put him on ventilators, stuff that we've heard during the COVID, pandemic, scamdemic, of how people lose their lives, because once you stick somebody on a ventilator and they're that sick, seems like most of the time it results in death, right? So that occurs. The documentary is released September 10th, okay? Then we find out about the ballots, and I'm chasing semi-trailers. Again, documented, by the way, And you know what's funny? I got this iPad over here, and in this iPad, I actually do have images, of... Here, I want to show this. This is actually a first. Nobody's ever seen this, but I actually want to show it to you guys because people are like, there's so many of these hacks online that they basically, try to say that you're fake, you're this, that, and I don't know if that's a jealousy thing, but, so this is actually, I filmed this footage right here. You see me driving down the road. Literally chasing semis, I'm like, even while I'm driving, this was actually kind of dangerous. But I was like, I need evidence that I'm doing this. Look, you see me, you see that, right? You see that? Okay. And I'm not going to let you see too much because I can't let you see the brand of it, because I've already told a lot of, basically implicating these individuals that actually run the place. So I can't expose that part to you, but I just wanted to show you this, and the timestamp will show that this is like 2 in the morning, middle of nowhere, me driving, chasing semis. This is literally 2 days before I go to the Coachella rally. Then I've gathered all the evidence, which I hand to Patrick Byrne. So that's really what was going on, and I have the evidence to show it. I also have evidence, hang on one sec here. I have evidence of the actual parking lot, but I can't show that to you. Sorry. That shows the brand of that. Because if I show you guys the brand of the trucks, then you're going to know the company, and that's information Patrick hasn't exposed yet, and neither has any of the other individuals, so I can't expose that to you guys right now, but I'm sure you'll see that as well very soon, right? So anyway, I think I've said enough in terms of all the setup to this. And now we're going to try to call the DOJ, and I'm sure it's going to be like press 1, press 2. This is the California Department of Justice.
California Attorney General. Public Inquiry Unit.
Mm-hmm.
For English, press 1. Para español, favor de oprimir. We're sorry. Our call center is closed, and you will not be able to speak with an analyst at this time.
Our call center is closed.
To proceed through this information system, as the answers to a majority of the questions asked of our office may be found here. Thank you.
It's 4:24, by the way, in California. How many of you guys get to leave your job at 4:24?
Of the Attorney General. This automated system is provided to give you the quickest route to our most frequently requested information, including U.S. mail, email, and webpage addresses, how to file a consumer complaint, and referrals to our many registries, bureaus, and units. At this time, information and assistance is available through our automated information system only. Please continue to proceed through this information system, as the answers to a majority of the questions asked of our office may be found here. If you need to speak with a public inquiry unit analyst, please call back Monday through Friday between the hours of 9 to noon and 1 to 4.
9 to noon
Before
and
you
1 to
proceed,
4.
please
Wow.
ensure you have paper and pen or pencil ready.
9 to noon,
Please
1 to
choose
4.
from the following 7 options. For instructions on how to file a complaint.
Okay, what I want
press
you guys to
1.
do is, if you guys could all help me, I need to find a phone number for the FBI. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, on our Rumble account, I'm going to keep the chat open, and also on X, I'm going to keep the chat open, and we're going to do a little research right now and actually try to find. We're going to try to find FBI's number, because they don't make it easy. There's websites where you could, you know. It's funny. It's like, I have a former partner from an old company, and he's out there like talking shit. Like, Travis, go fuck yourself, dude. Seriously. It's like, it's funny that when these like individuals, you know, we're out there fighting, you know, risking our lives, chasing down stories. And this guy sitting in the comfort of his home is talking shit right now, which is very interesting, because right now the real patriots are, they've been very helpful. They've been very helpful, which is what you do at this kind of time when, you know, there's somebody being attacked, clearly unlawfully, clearly due to fraud, clearly due to crimes. And this guy's out there talking crap because he's pissed off. I called him out on money that he stole from me, you know, and I filed a lawsuit, which is an action, but he wants to talk all this crap, little schmuck that he is. You know, and obviously, you guys could tell I don't give a shit anymore. I'm tired of this nonsense, you know? It's like this infighting crap while we're out here simply as investigative journalists and documentary makers trying to tell you guys what's going on out there, because certainly, you know, other media is not doing it. So let's try FBI California phone number. Let's see if we get anything with that. Oh, closing soon. Wow. Okay. This is actually, oh, Sacramento. You know what? Let's call Sacramento closing soon. They close at 4:30, which gives us 2 minutes. There's another one that's open till 5, they're saying. So we're going to try both of them and see where we get with that, you know?
You have reached the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Sacramento Division. This call may be recorded. If this call is urgent, hang up now and dial 911. If you know your party's extension, press 9. Please listen to the following options. If you need to file a report, press 1. For our address and phone
Yes,
number,
we do need to file a report.
Hello. Thank you for calling the FBI. To continue this call in English, press 1. For Spanish, this is not a 911 service for taking emergency calls. For emergencies, please call 911. If you, or someone you know, are having thoughts of suicide, experiencing a mental health crisis,
I'm not suicidal, guys.
or
I'm
seeking
definitely
mental
not
health
suicidal.
resources, press 1. In a few moments, you will be connected to an operator. This call will be recorded for quality assurance, investigative or other purposes. If you do not wish to be recorded, please press 1 to receive details on how to report electronically, and this call will then be disconnected. Some states have passed red flag laws that restrict individuals from having firearms based on the belief they are a danger to themselves or others. Your local law enforcement agency may have more information on these laws. During this call, you will be asked to provide identifying information about yourself and or the persons about whom you are calling. These questions will ask for information regarding name, date of birth, telephone number, and address. For the best accuracy, please do not use speakerphone while providing this information. We use this information to assist in investigating your tip. You do not have to provide your name or other personal information. However, the lack of information may delay or hurt our ability to investigate your tip. Any information you can provide may be used for authorized purposes. Repeatedly providing information with no demonstrated investigative value may result in the FBI no longer taking your information. By continuing this call, you are agreeing to these terms. To report a tip on an FBI case currently highlighted in the news, press 1. To report a tip about a threat to human life, serious bodily injury, significant violent action, or threats to national security, press 2. To report a suspicious email, hacked email, internet scams,
By the way,
cryptocurrency scams,
what's happening right is a
ransomware,
threat to national
threatening
security, but
communications through email or
they
text
probably
message
don't
with
qualify
demands
as
for
that.
money, press 3. To report mortgage fraud, press 4. To report telemarketing fraud, gift card fraud, identity theft, or unfair or fraudulent business practices, press 5. If you are calling about any other issue, press 6. To repeat this menu, please press the pound key.
I gotta listen to that again because I don't even know how
To report a tip on an FBI case currently highlighted in the news, press 1. To report a tip about a threat to human life, serious bodily injury, significant violent action, or threats to national security, press 2. To report a suspicious email, hacked email, internet scams, cryptocurrency scams, ransomware, threatening communications through email or text message with demands for money, press 3. To report mortgage fraud, press 4. To report telemarketing fraud, gift card fraud, identity theft, or unfair or fraudulent business practices, press 5. If you are calling about any other issue, press 6.
Let's go with
To
national
repeat this
security.
menu, please press the pound. Please say or enter your 10-digit phone number now.
Let me enter that because. All right, so real quickly, I can't give my main number, guys, but this is my second number.
Please say or
If anybody needs to call me.
if you would like to decline and move on, please press 0. Please spell your legal first name now.
VEM, like Michael.
The spelling of your legal first name is VEM. If this is correct, say yes.
Yes.
If this is incorrect, say. Please spell your legal last name now.
Miller, Miller.
Please spell your legal last name now.
Miller.
The spelling of your legal last name is Miller. If this is correct, say yes. If
Yes.
this is incorrect, say. Please say or enter your date of birth as month, day, and 4-digit year. Your date of birth is October 26, 1974. If this is correct, say yes. If this is incorrect, say no.
Yes.
Please say or enter your 5-digit zip code now.
Okay. I'm going to have to put you guys on mute. 1 sec. Sorry.
Your zip code is 60. If this is correct, say yes. If this is incorrect, say no.
No.
If you would like to decline and move on, please press 0. Please say your state or 2-letter state abbreviation now.
Nevada.
Please say the state abbreviation is NV. If this is correct, say yes. If this is incorrect, say no.
Correct. Yes.
Please spell your city now.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to put you on mute again because there's certain things I can't give out. 1 sec.
in a minute.
All right.
Thank you for calling.
Sorry,
Your
guys.
call
I had
is
to
very
put
important
it
to
on
us
mute
and will be
'cause
answered in the order it was received.
I don't want my addresses to be exposed right now.
Thank you for calling. Your call is very important to us and will be answered in the order it was received.
By the way, I want to thank some people while I'm on here. George from Big Mig, Lance from Big Mig, Joe Altman, Therese Edward, Serene Bazdigian, my folks, Pastor Andy, Fantastical from Las Vegas. And by the way, these are like short lists because it's a lot of people that have been very helpful. These are just the people that happen to be texting now. Armin Avakian, Shanta Avakian, Jennifer Bailey, Amber, Doug. I can't say your last name, Doug, and I know you wouldn't want me to. Joshua Abraham, Irina Hansen, the Beatles, Gianna, Pete Santilli, Mindy Robinson. You know, and again, this is not going to be a full list. I'm just literally reading off the last few folks that
Thank you for calling.
Oh.
Your call is very important to us and will be answered in the order it was received.
Ryan Bundy, the Bundy family, Ethan Schmidt, Jeff Dornick, Chris Dyer from PAA, you know. You're coming through right now. I was pissed off at you, but thank you, man. You're coming through this last week. John Frankman, Ben Marble, Dr. Ben Marble, Adam Mendelhall, Sherelle, Raheem Kassam, Karen Kingston, and Travis, by the way, is still talking shit, posting stuff. You know, and the one dirty thing, or thing you would find about me is that I had a divorce. My ex-wife said a lot of shit about me. Nobody even takes this seriously because everybody knows that in divorces, the ex-wife usually talks shit, and that's the only thing Travis Ebarb
Your
is
call is very important to
dig
us
up.
and will be answered in the order it was
Travis
received.
Ebarb, human garbage man that steals money and then has the balls to continue talking shit and try to kick a man when they're down. That's the kind of person Travis Ebarb is. And by the way, the kind of stuff I say, there's a thing called discoveries in court, right? When you bring in people to basically testify regarding the character of somebody, you know, people get scared of defamation, but when you understand the discoveries process, you know, if you prove something in court, which I could prove the man stole from me, alcoholic, generally bad reputation throughout his history, then you're not so scared because all you gotta do is drag those people out in court and prove in court of law what everybody already knows, right? Cheater guy too, you know, not very loyal to his lady, and is out here trying to use the one little thing that he could find. The fact that I had a divorce way back when, and my ex-wife said some things that were not nice.
Your call is
and
very
certainly untrue.
and will be
And a lot of
answered in the order
people
it was
that
received.
know that process know that your ex-wives, usually because of the way family courts are and all that, usually they talk a lot of shit. And that's the one thing that he keeps regurgitating, trying to make me look like a bad guy. All right, some more names here. 1 second. Austin, Michael Corey, Rachel Emery, Mike Quinn Jr., Daniel Goodwin, AJ Rice and Drew, my PR folks. Mike Michael McDonald from the Republican Party. That one was a surprise. Jesse Law from the Republican Party. That was a surprise. Those guys actually stood up for me and said that I'm not this person. Nairi from, I believe she's with...
Thank you for calling. Your
NBC4.
call is very important
She's actually been
and will
very
be
helpful.
answered in the order it was received.
Dr. John Petrick, who's been defending me online from people like Travis Ebarb that talk smack. Thomas Renz, Thomas Baby, he was actually one of the first that called and said, nah, man, I know this is all BS. Offered to help me with any legal cases. Andrea Wexelblatt, who also was on that Tom Renz call, and he's been very supportive fighting the lies. Oh, Carmen Estelle. We can't forget Carmen Estelle. Shannon Croner. I'm sorry, guys, if I forget anybody. It's just, I've been making a complete list, but a lot of this stuff has been so on the fly. Oh, sorry. People are saying you can't hear me over the music. Thank you for letting me know that.
And will be answered in the order it was received.
Alexander Stone. Boone Cutler. Thank you, Boone. General Flynn, of course. You can't forget General Flynn, Katrine Ivanov. Steve Sanson. We definitely can't forget Steve Sanson. Bo Diddle's another one. Of course, my attorney, Sigal Chadha, and also Tim Treffinger. Hopefully you guys could hear me. Let me know if I'm just putting the phone to the side until they answer this thing, which I'm kind of doubtful they're going to answer. And if this takes any longer, I'm going to call the other office and see if I can get through. Erica, who's running for office in Las Vegas. She also was very supportive. Johnny Brew.
Thank you for calling. Your call is very important to us and will be answered in the order it was received.
Thank you for calling the FBI. Can I have your first and last name, please?
Yes, sir. It's Vem Miller. V-E-M Miller.
That's VEMMILLER.
Yes, sir.
Date of birth 10/26 of 1974.
Yes, sir.
Your phone number?
You know what? It's
And what's your address, sir? Your report today, sir.
So, sir, I'm calling because oops, my phone fell. I was the gentleman that was falsely accused of attempting to assassinate President Trump at the Coachella Rally on October 12, 2024 by Sheriff Bianco of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. And as a result of those false accusations, there's been a number of calamitous things upon my life. Firstly, I have more than enough ample evidence to show clearly that everything the Sheriff Bianco was saying of criminal substance was actually a complete lie, and that they have the evidence from that moment where they created those lies to indicate that everything that he was saying was a lie, meaning body cam footage. They had access to body cam footage that would have clearly showed that I was not there to cause the president harm. They have, just ample evidence, which I could go through it one by one in terms of what they had in their possession. But nonetheless, on October 13th.
Okay, let's go ahead and back this up just a moment here.
Sure.
So what sheriff do you allege is doing this, sir?
Sheriff Bianco of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, as well as his deputy. And I believe I got the ticket that they ultimately gave me here. So I'll get the arresting officer. His name was Detective Coronado. So Sheriff Bianco and Detective Coronado.
Is that CORONADO, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And they claim that you were making threatening statements. What were these statements?
No. It wasn't just threatening statements. What happened was, I could give you a play-by-play. Is that the best way for me to give you all the facts right now? I could give you a play-by-play of exactly what happened.
So be brief, but yeah, just kind of an example of what occurred.
Well, it's very hard to be brief because so much happened and so much as a consequence happened. But I show up, huh?
Continue.
Okay, so I show up to the rally. I'm actually I ran for Republican office in 2022. I'm also a Trump team member, part of the Nevada Republican Party, very involved. So I had a special invite from the Nevada Republican Party that came from, that was then sent to me by the Donald J. Trump campaign. And in fact, they sent me 4 of them instead of 1 mistakenly, but I was clearly there as an invitee with a special entrance. As I'm driving, so I had 2 firearms in the back of my truck, lawful firearms purchased in Nevada. And I had them in my possession, certainly nothing illegal with owning firearms. They were in the back of my SUV in the back area, the trunk area. And so as a regular practice, whenever I go to any rallies, which have been in Nevada, out of respect for the police officers, law enforcement, before I enter the parking lot, and that's a distinction that needs to be made here, is that the parking lot and the rally are 2 separate locations. So I'm seeing the parking lot area in front of me, and before I even attempt to enter, I tell a police officer on my left side that, you know, I'm here by a special invite. I'm part of the Republican Party in Nevada. And I just want to tell you that I have firearms in the back, and I even offer for them to hold on to the firearms if there's any issue. But what subsequently happens after I transparently share this information is that I'm put under arrest. I'm put inside a sauna of a car. At the time, I was experiencing medical issues and was basically prevented from getting my supplements that would have helped with my blood sugar level and my heart rate going crazy, especially under the circumstances, that stuff was kept from me for about an hour and a half. And then about 3-4 hours in, there was an opportunity for the Secret Service and the FBI to interview me. They declined because I think by then they had realized that everything I had said was true. But nonetheless, I am taken to the police station where I am not given my lawful right of making a phone call, which I wasn't given at all throughout this entire process. And I kept asking, the police station cameras would reflect it. The body cameras would reflect this. The body cameras would also reflect that I was kept away from my supplements and that I was being medically tortured in the back of a police car in the 110 plus sun, which you could imagine inside the back of a police car could get pretty nasty, sweating, heart racing, that sort of thing. 6.5 hours in, the FBI and the Secret Service again have an opportunity to interview me. They decline. I later found out that on that same day, October 12th, the FBI and Secret Service stated that I was not any threat whatsoever to the president. This was essentially a nothing burger, and there's not much more to it. But yet, after, I'm taken to prison, fingerprinted or jail, fingerprinted, mugshot taken, put in a cell, still don't get my phone call. I'm released at 1:15 a.m. with a ticket. And the ticket citation is simply a discrepancy between California law and Nevada law, because Nevada is where I purchased my guns. And instead of having a cap of 10 bullets in the gun, my Glock had 14 bullets in the gun. In addition, my mag was loaded in the Glock, whereas in Nevada, that's totally fine. In California, you're supposed to have the mag and the gun separated, the body of the gun. They give me a ticket, which I've then discovered that this, in worst case scenario, because I have no priors, I have no criminal history whatsoever, at worst, this should have been a $1,000 ticket. But instead, the next day, at October 13th, the Sheriff Bianco has a press conference, and he flat out lies on multiple levels about having caught a potential Trump assassin. He calls me a lunatic. The Epoch Times, there's 2 witnesses that would state that he contacted the Epoch Times newspaper and said that I had made verbal threats, that I literally said, I am here to kill, fill in the blank, and I won't say that sentence so it doesn't come out of my mouth. Subsequent to this, essentially on an international level, my reputation's destroyed. All my clothing was in the car that they impounded. I tried to do some shopping. I believe it was, and I had to go to a hidden location because of the severity of what had happened. I find out that, I go to essentially a Target. I could say it now because I've since moved to another secret location. And I'm trying to buy clothes. And I noticed that a lot of people are noticing who I am. And sometimes looking at me like they're fearful of me, sometimes looking at me like they want to kill me or harm me because they think I am an assassin based upon the lies of Sheriff Bianco. This news, by the way, hit every international press around the world as Vem Miller, Trump assassin, apprehended, thrown in jail. So my phone starts blowing up from international media. All of this I have evidence, by the way, sir. All of this is evidence recorded, everything I'm saying. I have to go into hiding at that point because my life is destroyed at that point, as I'm forever known as the third Trump assassin based on the lies of the Sheriff Bianco. And by the way, I know Sheriff Bianco is also being investigated by the federal authorities, and there's been a lot of issues to his behavior prior to this, and similar sorts of violations of law, violations of constitutional rights, deprivation of rights, operating under the collar of law, that sort of thing, And so subsequent to this, the next thing that happens on October 13th, after the federal authorities have said that I'm no harm, the FBI and the Secret Service, that this is a nothing burger, anti-terrorism, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officers show up to my parents' home in Las Vegas. The reason they show up to my parents' home in Las Vegas is that, as you know, my address is different, right? Which I've stated already. Now, they show up to my parents' home is because I caretake for my parents. And in one instance, I had actually submitted a document to the police department, which had my parents' address. So they think I'm living there, okay? They show up to my parents' home, and first they show up on the 13th with, I believe, 2 officers snooping around. And my parents are terrified because their son has been falsely accused in the international media, and they're watching the television, seeing that I'm being accused of attempting to assassinate former President Trump. And so they don't open the door. They call my friend Steve Sanson. And Steve Sanson, if you look him up, is actually a Marine who runs the Veterans in Politics institution that has been essentially fighting corruption for the last 20 years. He's the kind of person that goes after like corrupt family law lawyers and judges and individuals that are corrupt, essentially, and has had a great deal of success in removing corrupt officials from their positions that are operating under the color of law. Okay, so Steve Sanson comes to, so Steve Sanson basically then starts making some phone calls trying to figure out why there's these anti-terrorism police officers snooping on private property without a warrant on October 13th. Well, then on October 14, I am told that 7 to 12 anti-terrorism police officers show up again to my parents' home. They are trying to enter the home without a warrant. My mother again calls Steve Sanson. Steve Sanson arrives at the property and he asks them what they're doing. They say that they're on an investigation, which is very odd that state officials got involved in an investigation that is the purview of the feds. And the feds said already on October 12, 2024, that I'm no threat. And from what I've been told, they completely dropped the matter. But now we have state authorities. And then Steve Sanson, who was friends with and knows Sheriff McMahill, the guy that's in charge of the Clark County Police, contacts him and finds out that he has not authorized. Yes.
If I make sure I've got this right here, sir. So the Steve Stanton individual, is this your legal representative or?
No, he's just an advocate who fights corruption, who is one of my good friends and happens to know my parents, almost like a second son to my parents. And he is somebody very well connected, knows all the judges in Clark County, knows Sheriff McMahill, knows Governor Lombardo, and he comes and he starts making phone calls to stop this unlawful incursion onto my parents' home.
Understood. And then have you contacted the internal affairs of either police department there to?
We have actually, we have, and I'm glad you
Or
asked that. I'm glad you asked that because we submitted reports from Steve Sanson, my mother and father. And after Steve Sanson has made contact 4 times, simply trying to get the incident reports, he has gotten no calls back. And all things indicate that they are trying to sweep this under the rug because this was not an approved incursion. And this is why I'm concerned, because it sounds like this was rogue cop stuff. And it doesn't escape me that these are anti-terrorism officers that claim that they are there for a welfare check. And that's not the kind of person you send. And now the feds already have cleared me on October 12th. So if they had to do a welfare check, they would have sent normal police officers, but they sent anti-terrorism officers, which would indicate that they're trying to guise this under terrorism, which, as you know, there's a lack of due process when you try to guise somebody as being either a terrorist or the needing of an anti-terrorism unit. You see what you see. I'm very well aware of the laws when it comes to bringing terrorism type task force and what that would implicate had I been at that location at that time.
Okay, gotcha. And so have you consulted with a legal representative to discuss any sort of legal option for this?
Of course.
Else like that?
We filed a lawsuit already against the Riverside County Sheriff and his department. As defendants, we're adding the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and their anti-terrorism unit. My lawyer, I have a couple of them, but one of them is named Sigal Chattis. She is a chairwoman of the National Republican Party, and this has already been filed. As far as the first version, and an amended version, including these other parties, is going to be filed soon, and you could find this at pacer.com.
Okay, gotcha. So, Mr. Miller, I'm going to get this information documented. If you feel the police are acting in some way that might be inappropriate or anything else like that, you need to continue working with the internal affairs. Maybe reach out to the state attorney general as well. But continue working with legal representation. In the meanwhile, sir, should a special agent need to reach out to you, I've got your phone number as well as your address here. Okay.
Could I tell you, this is like, I guess you could say this is an allegation at this point, but all the tea leaves in this situation would indicate that this was a rogue situation with the terrorism unit showing up to my parents' home. And I fear that if I was there, I would no longer be talking with you on this phone call because I would no longer be here. So that is something I'm gravely concerned about.
So, Miller, like I said, I'm going to get this documented, okay? If you're having issues with this particular department still, like I said, continue doing what you're doing. But I'll get this documented, and we do appreciate your time.
Okay.
The way I understand it, you have no intentions to harm anybody at this point. Is that right to say?
I have never harmed anybody in my life. If you look at my record, and I think the feds probably did their job correctly, and so did the Secret Service, and they decided not to interview me nor interrogate me when they had the opportunity on 2 occasions, which is not what you would do with somebody that even has any prior on their record. So no, I've never harmed anybody. I'm actually a documentary filmmaker and investigative journalist. For that reason, I've gotten multiple death threats because corrupt officials don't like when you expose them.
Very good.
And so, yes.
Mr. Miller, like I said, I'll get this information documented, sir. We do appreciate your time tonight.
I have one question.
In the meanwhile,
I have one question for you, though. So you're saying, so I've contacted your offices in terms of the FBI. Who else do I need to contact in order to get this filed correctly?
So, just to recap, like I said, I'll get this information documented on my end here, sir. I'm not on the investigative team per se. I'm more or less here just to collect information. But I'll do my job over here. I'll get this put into our system. Should a special agent need to reach out to you, we can do so then if they see it to be appropriate. In the meanwhile, though, Mr. Miller, do continue working with your legal representation there, as they can provide you legal advice that I can't.
Yeah, of course.
Also, continue working with internal affairs to have this matter resolved.
And when you say internal affairs, you're talking about the internal affairs of the Clark County, or the internal affairs, is there a national one? Just to make sure I got it correct. Hello? Hello? Oh, wow. Hello? Okay. All right. I guess that call's done. So anyway, now we got it, at least I called the FBI, let them know about what was going on, and I will, what time is it right now? Oh, it's 5 o'clock. So all of them are closed, 5 o'clock. They all close basically at 5 o'clock. So anyway, I am doing this all very publicly. Everything I'm doing is very public at this juncture because obviously, I mean, you guys could imagine, you know, people out there viewing, if this was happening to you with this kind of rogue behavior, you know, potentially cops calling favors with other cops to do rogue activities and everything that's happened thus far, I think being very public about it is probably wise at this juncture because, you know, what's happened is, you know, and people just need to watch that clip that I have pinned to my X account to see that this is something that is of great concern when you have blatantly a sheriff, okay, in a department. And when you watch that clip, you'll understand the concern because this isn't, you know, a squeaky clean department. This is a department that keeps getting complaints for violation of constitutional rights, people dying in their custody, a $7.5 million wrongful death lawsuit that's settled, allegations of bribery, allegations of people being beaten up. In fact, there's some video that was sent to me where 10 police officers beat the crap out of somebody, Rodney King style, okay? So, and, you know, we're talking about people that operate with impunity, that are clearly, they're not concerned about committing acts of violence and observing due process. So I'm going to be very public, transparent, and loud about this every step of the way. We're going to post videos every time we have information. We're going to do lives every time we're seeking information. And so that is the only way to handle this at this moment. So anyway, guys, look, thank you very much. There's a lot of work to be done still, you know, things that we have planned out in order to further get this story out and bring this matter to justice. So there's going to be a lot more forthcoming from the America Happens Network. Remember, we are americahappens.com. You could also find us at America Happens 1, the number 1. And also my business partner, Mindy Robinson, is I Heart Mindy, her Twitter, X. And, you know, just keep checking in, or our Rumble account, which is America Happens. Easy to find. Just search for the channel. Make sure you click on the channel part because there's a drop down where you could select a channel. Make sure you check out the America Happens channel on Rumble too. These are the platforms that we are going to be posting things. Also, by the way, we are, as of 3-4 months ago, we got on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV with the America Happens Network. And there you just got to search for the America Happens Network. They make it a little bit tricky in terms of, you know, all their Netflixes and all that stuff pop out. We're like in the nosebleed seats, so to speak. But make sure you subscribe to the America Happens channels on Smart TV, all of which are going to be playing updates and letting you guys know what's going on so you could follow this story. And, you know, the last thing I'll say is that, you know, 25 to 50,000 people is the number that showed up to this Coachella rally, okay? Imagine if this happened to anybody else. Imagine if this happened to anybody else. And when you watch that Riverside County board meeting, which is pinned to my profile, as well as all the evidence showing that what I've said is true, my recordings of it, because they haven't released the body cam footage. They keep blaming the feds for it, saying that, oh, you know, it's up to the feds, blah, 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 because they don't want to release the body cam footage because it contradicts everything that they've said and even shows that there was no incident at all whatsoever. They could have just told me, make a U-turn, go back home, you know, drop off your firearms. But instead, they made me out to be one of the, you know, maybe 12 most notorious individuals in American history that have either assassinated somebody or have attempted to assassinate somebody. Put me in that class, you know? So unfortunately, now we got to fight for the truth to come out, which is exactly what we're doing. I'm very fortunate, but I will say that, you know, what if it was one of the other 50,000 or 25,000 people that this happened to? What would have happened, you know, with somebody that doesn't have the connections I have? I mean, I just read you guys names of people that I'm glancing over that have messaged me today. And I'm sure you heard some names in there of people that have big followings that are known, okay? And I got fortunate because I've been a passionate patriot. I went into that movement wanting to help, wanting to use my skills as a producer and director, which I have a long history of, and that's not hard to find. simply to help this country, simply help expose content, show content that tells Americans what is happening in this country, because guess what? The mainstream media doesn't. The mainstream media, and another thing that mainstream media doesn't want to do is, they went out there and slandered the crap out of me. All the headlines came out like boom, like a huge tidal wave, right? Huge tidal wave. And when it came to, they gave Sheriff Bianco all the time in the world. This guy did the media tour just like he wanted to, because he wants to be governor and he doesn't care whose reputational corpse he walks over to get to that position of power, right? You would think that a sheriff would do the most basic thing, to be like, all right, let me see the body cam footage. I've heard this sort of thing like, oh, what if he was given bad information? Well, in a worst case scenario, he's completely and utterly, best case scenario, he's completely and utterly incompetent and doesn't know how to do his job, because before you go to a big press conference calling somebody a assassin, you would think that you would look at some evidence and you wouldn't just take the advice or claims of somebody else. You would actually look at some evidence, but that's not what he does. He goes right there and calls me a lunatic, calls me a sovereign citizen without considering that, wait a minute, that doesn't make much sense, because the primary point of sovereign citizens is that they don't believe in government, they don't believe in law. And having run for office in 2022 and supporting a presidential candidate in 24 and also 20, you would think that, oh, that guy supports government, like he likes government, he is not an anarchist or one of these crazy guys, and it's all there on the surface. If you look at my Instagram, I'm hanging out with a lot of former and future government officials. And why would somebody that's so anti-government, this sovereign citizen, hang out with individuals like that, right? So a cursory look at the facts would have showed Sheriff Bianco that everything that he ultimately went up with and said was categorically and demonstrably untrue, okay? So in best case scenario, you have sheer incompetence. I think it's more, we're not in the best case scenario field. I think we're in the worst case scenario field, where this man, out of pure hunger and thirst for power, and having the patterns and practices where, like the kid that steals that jelly bean and then decides to steal a pocket knife, and then decides to steal money from his mom's purse, and then decides to steal somebody's car, okay, and then goes and rapes somebody, because you know what, he keeps getting away with it and operates with impunity, patterns and practices. This individual got to a point where he didn't even feel like he had to do his job before he makes this announcement. And then after he makes the announcement, lo and behold, anti-terrorism officers show up in a rogue fashion that are not according to Sheriff McMahill, instructed by him. So they're apparently doing this whole rogue thing. There was a movie with Clint Eastwood called Magnum Force about rogue officers like this. And that sort of patterns and practices only happens when criminals operating under the color of law have gotten away with it so much that they don't think there's any repercussion for breaking the laws, okay? That's the only time that sort of thing happens, because that doesn't happen by fluke, okay? And I've heard Sheriff Bianco make statements of a lot of people threaten lawsuits. They never do it. Why? Because lawsuits cost a lot of money. I'm fortunate to know individuals like Sigal, Timothy, Tom, okay, Chris, that are willing to do this because it's such a powerful case. But what if you don't have those connections? What if you don't have the money? And most people don't. So you could imagine, for every 1,000 crimes that these criminals operating under the color of law commit against people, right? How many of them have the money and power and the contacts to actually bring this sort of criminal behavior to justice? Because frankly, justice has been monetized. You can't do it if you don't have money. Most people that don't have the money are forced into plea bargains, are forced into admitting guilt through plea bargains just to get the hell out of jail. And as somebody that spent, I don't know what it was, 8:30 to 1:15, those hours in jail, I could tell you, just the practice of being in jail, is torturous. because you got nothing. You're in this cell, concrete cell. You're trying to sleep on a concrete slab. Really, the only thing you could do is work out. And I figure like, hey, if I was in jail, I'd get pretty yoked out because literally that's the only thing you have to do. And I was like dying for like a pen and a notebook. And the first thing I did, by the way, after getting out of jail that next morning is, I'll show you. I went and bought this notebook so I could simply write some stuff. I could write my thoughts. I could collect my thoughts. I could kind of think, how am I going to deal with this situation, right? After this horrible experience. So the process is very much the punishment, okay? And imagine you're one of these people that's stuck in jail, put in jail in this torturous, like just mind-numbing experience, and you're offered a plea bargain, which means you're agreeing to guilt. Most people sign this because who the hell wants to be in a torturous situation like that in jail, like an animal, especially for, you know, and one other little detail. Hey, I got to mention this part. The guy across from me, MS-13 gang member, tattoos all over the place, takes off his shirt, starts shadow boxing and stuff, starts working out. The guy 2 doors down, batshit crazy out of his mind, yelling his ass off, literally hitting the walls. And I had to listen to this for hours. It was like a scene out of Midnight Express. I felt like I was in a mental asylum. You could imagine how traumatic that is for somebody and why somebody would sign a plea bargain even though they're innocent, because they simply do not have the avenue to even achieve due process. And that's what's happened right now. We've been robbed of our rights to justice because it's been monetized, because justice is only available for the rich. You saw O.J. Simpson. You guys seen O.J. Simpson, I'm sure. You know, most people think that O.J. Simpson was guilty. But when you have a badass legal team like that, all those lawyers, rock stars, apparently you could get away from, you know, prison. You could get away from guilt, allegedly, in terms of O.J. Simpson, even though he wrote a book, basically said something to the effect of, if I did it or whatever, you know, with the if being like really tiny. So you read it, I did it, and then he's, you know, crazy. It's so crazy. Where he was most likely, allegedly, able to buy his freedom by having the right kind of lawyers. But then you have individuals that don't have that kind of money, don't have those resources, don't have the national spotlight, aren't frankly in the middle of civil rights issues where the Black community is so pissed off of what's happened to them when, you know, this sort of thing was happening to the Black community, that they're rooting for this guy, even though it's pretty clear that he is allegedly guilty. So that's what's become of our legal system, and it's been ongoing for decades now. And unfortunately, this is where we are right now. And had this happened to anybody else at that Coachella rally, you wouldn't even hear about it. You wouldn't even know. And that sheriff would have been able to walk all over the reputation of that individual, destroy that destroy that person's life, their family's reputation, their family's name, and totally get away with it. And you know what would have happened? He would have become governor, most likely. He would have probably become governor because that was his goal. And all of you out there that are pissed off at me for holding Sheriff Bianco accountable because he said a bunch of nice things in terms of pushing back against Gavin Newsom. I heard he told Gavin Newsom to F himself, and everybody loves that so much. Did he do anything to keep the businesses open? Did he fight for your businesses, or the small businesses still went out of business while the big box stores were able to stay open? So a lot of people that are upset at me about going after Sheriff Bianco that think he's such a great guy, let me tell you something. All of this evidence and behavior indicates what you've already experienced before. You've experienced this a million times. And what is it that you've experienced? You vote for somebody. You passionately support somebody. They get in office. They don't do any of the stuff that you wanted them to do. They don't fight for you. And then they leave office very rich. And you're disappointed. You're like, why didn't that person do all the things he said he was going to do for all these years? He sounded like he was going to fight for our rights. And like if a COVID came around and he was governor, he wouldn't close the stores. Okay. You're all wondering why did this person end up being the way he was? You know, he performed. Well, you know what? Consider this a favor to all of you out there that were putting, you know, your hopes in Sheriff Bianco. You don't have to go through years of disappointment now. You don't have to feel betrayed and watching this man just get richer, a man that's already making $600,000 a year. Okay, 300,000 for his base, sheriff income, 300,000 for other income, which, by the way, I've heard a lot of allegations of where that other income comes from. Things like allegedly, you know what? Let's not get into that part. Actually, I'm going to save that one. And what I'm also going to save is, some of these devil's handshake deals that we know about, some of the other information we know about in terms of why Sheriff Bianco has not been held accountable when there's a board of supervisors, 5 individuals at the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, which are on camera in that piece that's pinned to my profile that you guys could watch. You guys could see who these individuals are. And these individuals keep hearing testimonials like the one you could see in that piece that I've created, with people going up there and saying, what's going on? Why is the sheriff still in power? You guys control the purse strings. Stop him. Remove him. Help us get rid of him, because he keeps doing horrible things to our community. And we're just like bleeding money because of all these lawsuits, and people are getting harmed in the process. Why won't the Board of Supervisors hold him accountable? Well, let's say hypothetically, what if there was some kind of a devil's bargain handshake deal between the sheriff and the Board of Supervisors, hypothetically, okay? Hypothetically, what if all the police officers that supported Sheriff Bianco to help him achieve his position as sheriff were told that their salary, which is $70,000 a year, would go up, and the new sheriff would back them up to raise their salary? Hypothetically, what if Sheriff Bianco had made a deal with these 5 board members to raise his salary, but also help them raise their salary while betraying the rank and file cops who are still stuck at $70,000 a year, hypothetically, okay? Anyway, I appreciate you guys joining us. I'm going to try to stay live enough, long enough to see this matter through and bring these people to justice and make an example out of this corrupt sheriff and his deputy and all the other corrupt individuals, the corrupt officials that even make this sort of thing possible. And lastly, I will say, the reason I've been so passionate about Donald Trump is he's an outsider, and he seems to be the only one that is even interested in fixing up this corruption and mess. Okay? And I hope he wins November 5th. And I hope he gives us an opportunity to clean this nonsense up. I really do. I really do. And otherwise, I don't know what happens with this. I mean, this is a police state run for an elite where most of us can't even afford lawyers to stop this corruption. And the behavior is so bad and habitual that this sort of thing is even allowed to happen, right? So look, I appreciate you guys joining me for this, calling of, the FBI. This will most likely continue tomorrow during business hours, where we will contact the DOJ. We made a list here, actually, thanks to Steve Sanson from Veterans in Politics. Oh, we got to contact the district court judges. District court judges, DOJ. And while I, as the guy that helps run this America Happens network, I've seen so many episodes of our shows and content with Mindy Robinson, Corinne Clifford, and other individuals that would indicate that the law no longer works for us, that they don't care. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. You just saw me file a report with the FBI. You're going to see me file a report with the DOJ and the district courts that govern these individuals, and let's see where that goes. So thank you very much for joining us. Lastly, AmericaHappens.com, my Twitter or X, not Vem Miller. Also, America Happens 1, the number 1. Mindy Robinson, I Heart Mindy. Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. You could search us on there under channels with the America Happens Network, where we show all of our content. And thank you for taking the time to follow the story, know what's going on, and I appreciate all of your people's support. And I certainly appreciate all the grassroots freedom fighters, many of who I have already named in this, podcast, I guess we could call it, or, news update. You know, a couple of other people that come to mind, like Roger Stone was the first person to go out there guns blazing for me. Alex Jones was actually very close behind. First, he started, you know, talking about this third assassin, and then people in his office were like, wait a minute, third assassin, Vem Miller? Vem is a weird name. Let's check. Oh my God, it can't be that Vem Miller. Like, people stood up for me, you know? And I'm going to keep thanking those people. I'm going to keep thanking those people. To the day I die, I'm going to keep thanking those people, because this would have not come to light if it wasn't for those people and the little miracle that happened here, which was that this insane tide of fake news was about to engulf me. These individuals, this maybe 100 or so patriots that came to my rescue, turned the tide of lies back. And the only reason you know the truth right now, it's not because of me. It's because these individuals stood up for me. They knew my character. They know what I'm about, and they let the truth be known. And we did something I don't think that's ever happened in history. Most of the time, because of the propaganda, it takes us years, minimum months, sometimes decades to get to the truth. But this happened in 24 hours, that tide was reversed and the truth started coming out. And that wouldn't have happened if, number one, the mainstream media had lost all or most of its credibility, and it wouldn't have happened without people with balls that are in the patriot movement that were willing to speak the truth. So thank you guys. I'm forever indebted to you. I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I will see you all tomorrow on the America Happens Network.